Hey, this is Coach Bill. I've had a lot of questions here asking me, hey, what about video analysis? What's up with video analysis? So what I did here today, what I'm going to do here today for us is I'm just going to pull up a clip here, and this is a clip of Mike Trout. And I just want to go through what it is that I'm looking at whenever I'm watching a player. And I'm using Mike because he's in the public domain with this, and so I can use that. And so typically what would happen when we begin is I just want to see what the tempo is in the swing. So I'm just going to watch it through 2 or 3 times before I would even want to look to see what was going on within the swing itself. And obviously there's some age-specific characteristics that go on, but for the most part, what I want to do is share with you what I would be doing with a player that's 13 or 14 all the way through 17, 18, 19 years of age, okay? And it can be regressed for a younger player, although I don't find a reason for that to be happening unless there's something grossly wrong and the player just can't feel it. And if it's a little bit older and you're just trying to fill in your gaps here a little bit, well, we can do that as well by watching through this. What I have along with this is my sheet that I use. And if you look over here, I have 8 categories on my sheet, just letting you see them go through. It goes from the setup, back leg attractors, transfer, the front leg, how the upper torso wants to work, how the trunk wants to work, talks a little bit about the head, obviously hip rotation, and then deceleration. Okay, so all of that sits in here, and then I just labeled it as acceptable, as cautious, or here's an area where we could create some significant improvement, okay? And so I'll just go through what it is that I would typically do when looking at a player. And so this is Mike Trout, and what I'm looking at here, let me grab my drawing tools, and I do believe I have those. Okay, so what I would just be looking at, and so let's start with this first before I even jump into that. Obviously, this is a straight-in shot. This shot shows me quite a bit. So if I'm taking video, I absolutely want to have this shot. It's straight on. This is a great camera angle. So this one was straight on, and that's why I chose this one. I would also like one from behind. And in this first piece, the very first issue that we're talking about is a hip hinge. And what we can tell, I can tell that there's a hip hinge here, right? We can tell that there's a hip hinge here, but we can't actually see it. So if we had it from that back view, we would see that Mr. Trout is indeed in a hinge, and as well as this back foot. Is the back foot solidly in the ground? Is the knee inside or tracking no further than over the middle of that back foot? And he does a great job of staying inside that back foot. And at that point, what I would be looking at is when, let me see if I can get out of this. I have to come back. When Mike Trout makes his move, then, let me grab this. What we're going to see is I'm just going to look here real quick, and I see his knee right here start to point out over his back foot. You might even see his back foot start to turn ever so slightly towards the catcher here. So let me see if I can pick this up. Obviously, I always have to quit my draw, which I remember. And here we can see the knee pointing out over. He's doing a nice job of holding on this particular one, right about right there. His big toe starts to slide back just ever so slightly, okay, just before he rolls down into it. Okay, notice he's not putting weight on top of that foot and spinning. He's actually trying to get forward. Okay, now, the next thing I would be looking at is does the bat stay in the window? And when we're looking right here, yeah, we can see this. We can see that the bat, and I would call this the window. All right, so somewhere in this vicinity, does that bat peek in there? And obviously it does. He's holding a great wrist angle right here. We can see that's that 90 degree that we'll often hear a lot of people talk about. So obviously pretty decent. I just say just stick it in the window, okay? We talked about the idea that he didn't take that knee over the back foot or over the middle of the back foot. What happens if you push this knee up over the back foot where it's in the middle or beyond? The only thing that you can do is spin, okay? And when I spin, believe it or not, when I spin this back foot, when I spin it around, I'm going to lose this bat gap real quick, okay? It's the only thing I can do. So I want to make sure that I'm not doing that. And as he's moving forward here, I'm just trying to take a real quick peek. Does he keep his shoulders and his hips parallel? And we can see as he's riding forward into his stride, and I would call a stride a fall, as he's going to his stride, we can see that those shoulders, it did indeed stay parallel. I'm moving everything on us now. So let me get back here to what I want to do. So we can see that they did indeed stay parallel. Okay, so let me go back. Let me show you that again, since I inadvertently moved us around here a little bit. Let you see how his shoulders and his hips are staying parallel. So he did a really good job. And again, if we were on that back view looking up, we would see that his butt was staying behind his heels, and he kept his posture the whole way through. All right, we can almost see that he's staying here. He's not pulling his hips up underneath him. We can see he's staying into his hinge. And by doing so, what he's done, he's activated his glutes, and it's going to allow him to turn his hip. Okay, let me get my drawing tool back. So by doing this, by staying in his hinge, he's activated his glutes, and it's now going to let him turn out, all right, to come in from that backside. All right, so that's the very first thing. That's what I would call the setup. That's what I was looking for. That's what I wanted to see. That's what I'm looking for in my players, and that's what we see here. The next area that I would go look at, I'm looking at the back leg. So let me go back, and does he leverage against that back leg? Does the knee stay inside that back foot? That's what I'm hoping to see, and that is what we see. So we can see as he's moving here, he's got great leverage. He's starting to create some excellent leverage here. And in fact, a little bit later on, we'll talk about this, but we can see as he's leveraging off that backside, he's getting some great slack pull right through here. Okay, we can see that arm is relatively straightening out. I see a little bend in it, but that could be just as far as it's going to go. Right, so it's never going to be perfectly straight, so we're starting to look at that. All right, so now he gets into that stride, and when the player drops, does he drop to good foot plant? Does he come in from above with that front foot? And we would say yes. I'm actually going to believe that he's ever so slightly early on this, all right, only because I'm looking here, and normally we're going to come into an athletic position. So in this particular swing, he might be a little bit early, and we can see this back leg starting to collapse in. And we can see him driving into this knee ever so slightly, trying to buy some time. Okay? Nothing bad at all. He's maintained the midline. Okay, he's maintained his midline when he dropped that foot, so it's going to allow him to be able to put out a good swing here. He's going to be able to save this swing. So he's done a great job of doing that. Again, he's held his slack. He's held that slack. That bat hasn't even moved yet. So he's done a great job of creating separation. He's just about ready to turn this front hip. Okay, it's showing a hint that it wants to. We can see that belt buckle just starting to peek out. Okay, as he wants to go forward. But I would still say, all in all, he's done a good job. He's staying in balance through what's going on here. Okay, so now let's go take a look here. This front foot has held. It's going to get stronger as he goes into his swing. And all I want us to do here is just to watch that knee just get really strong as he goes into the swing. Okay, so all hitters will be soft when we land, and then it'll strengthen. And he does a great job of sticking that front hip. And so it's one of the things that we're looking at. Does the front foot leak after he sets it down? Absolutely not. We don't see any action. Ball's off the barrel, and we're going to see a little bit, but the ball's already left. Okay? So there's the ball. Boom. Okay, so he's in pretty good shape. He's rolled over a little bit on that. So is this going to be his strongest swing? Probably not, but he's done a decent job. Was the front knee wobbly? Did it go lateral when he stuck in drift? Nope. So he's done a good job here. He's holding on really well. So at the upper portion of the body, at the upper torso, that's where I want to go look now. And so when we come all the way back, we're looking, I want to start, and I'm just looking, how's he doing here with his hands? We briefly mentioned that. Obviously pretty good. He's got that bat stuck in there. I like to see the lead arm approach lockout at some point in the swing. That's one of the things that I would like to see. All right, and we can see he's a little closer, but as he moves away from his pinpoint here, his bat knob, we can see he starts to lengthen that lead arm. Okay, and we can see his front shoulder just pulling back into the load. Okay, just watch this area. And let me highlight that again. Just watch this area right here. Okay, just watch that as he stretches that. Let me see, I got to get out of here. Okay, as he stretches into that load. Okay, let's go here, Mike. Boom. We can see it just start to turn. He's starting to show his numbers. Okay, so he does a great job with that. So he's held his bat. I call that the bat gap. That hasn't moved. He's done a really good job here. He's holding posture. I think he's stable here through the midsection. All right, and one of the things I would look at are is the barrel and his shoulders, are they holding parallel together as he turns through? And here they're slightly out a little bit, and we can see this ball's away. Okay, so he's been holding on. If we see it right here, he got a little forward on it. He's got good hip action. Okay, but we can see he's reaching ever so slightly on this, just ever so slightly. All in all, he's done a good job. He held his posture going through it. Was the timing of his arms and his hands and his lead foot down, was it appropriate? I think in this instance, it's just a little early. But again, this is a big dude who can swing it, so he might be able to get away with it. To me, it looks like he's slightly underneath the ball, but it's difficult to tell out of just this one particular piece that we're looking at here. Okay, so the next piece that I want to look at is how does he rotate? How is he moving through his trunk? And we see when he hits foot plant, he hasn't yet to begin that swing, so he's not starting to rotate early. He's dead on the money. He obviously understands what he's doing. He's controlled his midline. When his front foot hit, he's still solidly in the middle. In fact, you can see his head is just slightly behind. If anything, he's slightly collapsed on that back knee. All in all, though, he's in great shape. And what's going to happen here when we pick him up again here, you're going to see he's going to start to rotate, and he's definitely created some tension, good tension. And what I mean by that, if we look here, we can really see his fascia and the musculature just really stretching here. And now his belt buckle is starting to turn forward, and he's held those hands. So he's done a great job of initiating his trunk movement. His head was great. He didn't yank it. We weren't seeing it bob up and down. Let me come back out here and show you again, so you can see this. That's a pretty calm head. Okay, really nice job. He's getting good eyesight on it here. You can see it right there. And now, does the rear hip pull back? Does it pull his back leg forward to his toes. That is signature Mike Trout. And you can see, so he's turned in. He'll start to roll down on the back foot, and then that hip acceleration just drags his back foot forward. Okay, just drags his back foot forward. And that is a good sign. He's done a great job of initiating his swing from his torso and not from his feet. And that's one of the things that we want to make sure that we understand, especially with our younger guys. Swings don't come from your feet. The swing is initiated. Let me see if I can get my little tools here. The swing is initiated from our trunk, somewhere in this area, right in through here, okay? That's the piece that's going to move first whenever we start our swing, okay? That's the piece we would like to have move first whenever we start our swing. Okay, he did a great job. He remained stable throughout all of that. He continued to rotate to try to hang in there with his barrel as far as he could. He definitely gets the ball out in front. Let me see if I can find the ball again here in our, there it is. So you can see it is right there. And let's go back. Let me see if I can draw around that again. Right here's the baseball. Okay, right there's the baseball. Okay, so he's definitely out in front of that front foot ever so slightly. This is, and that's why, you know, I think this is an outside pitch. If we would have seen this on the inside, probably would have seen his barrel a little bit further out, probably someplace in this point. Okay, so let me get rid of that. And then the final things that I start to look for now are, did he stick this hip so he can continue to have his chest rotate around? And yeah, he sticks the hip right here. It is, boom, locked right here. Okay, if we were to look, if we could see this from another point of view, I think his hips are pointing out this way. Okay, they're pointing out this way. They have not over-rotated. They're not looking into left field. They're not doing anything. He has stuck that lower half, and now that upper body is just going to continue to rotate around the front side. Okay, he goes to his finish, and that's where we're at. Okay, so that's what it looks like. And, you know, to go along the line, I have this sheet here. It lists everything that we just talked about. I went through every one of those categories. Obviously, you can create your own that's specific to what you're doing. These are the things that I look for. And, you know, I'm never trying to work, you know, if it's acceptable or caution, depending on what you want it to, you know, within your rating. I just start working in the significant areas one at a time. Okay, and a lot of it will have to deal with pitch timing. We refer to body timing and pitch timing. Body timing is how we put our swing together. Pitch timing is marrying our swing to the pitch. And so if I don't understand what I'm looking at, a lot of times, all of these items that we've talked about in our movement analysis here might show up as symptoms. Okay, so it's one of the things I want to understand. So I want to take a look at a couple of different swings when I do this. You know, and obviously at the bottom, I just put a little spot in there. So if I did 3 swings, if we're going to look at 3 swings, you know, maybe I've videoed, recorded 3 swings, but maybe I've thrown 15 pitches. I want to make sure that I'm looking at a really good swing, something that had a nice exit velocity, something that wasn't quite as good but was still pretty solid, and then something that wasn't quite right. Okay, so I just want to take a look at those 3 and go back. And if I'm relatively near with all my moves, I'm probably pretty happy. There might be something that's sticking out, like a poor hinge, like an instability on the front foot, and they're going to stick out on their highest as well as on their lowest velocities. So those areas then that we would start to work at. But outside of that, if everything looks pretty decent, then I know that I'm certainly sitting in a timing issue. Okay, so now as we've gone through the first 2 weeks, okay, we've put together all the 7 characteristics. We've talked about level 1 swings, how to look at them, how to get on time with them. Now I can come back in, I can put some clips down here on video, and I can go from there. That'll help set me into my next round of training. Okay, and now this becomes very specialized, intended entirely for me as an individual. Okay, and so with that, I think perhaps where we go from here now is to look at some of those drills, and perhaps what we can do here is just take one of these issues over the next week or two, just one of these categories, and we'll just like address one, show you the symptom, and then perhaps come back and show you a drill to help with that, and then the next day it would be another of those categories. And we've introduced these categories, okay? So it's not going to be a whole lot new, but maybe there's just some different variations that you might identify with, okay? Hey, I hope this helps. If you have any questions, please just give me a shout out. In the meantime, I don't have this, I don't have the analysis up yet, but let me turn that thing into a PDF and I'll get a link for you. And eventually it makes its way back onto here. So in the meantime, if you want this analysis, all you have to do is just direct message me, and I will get this out to you. If I'm on the Facebook page, it's TUE Good Sports, and also you could probably get me here through the comments section. All right, hope this helps. I'll see you very soon.